Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Breaking Barriers Now. I'm your host, Jody Watkins, and today my guest is Chris, and he hails from up north. I'll let him tell you where he's from, and you'll tell when he starts talking because you can tell his accent. But but I met Chris not too long ago down in Orlando, and one of the first things that was very interesting about this man was I didn't know him, first of all. I didn't know him. But he saw something that day and he came to me and he was not afraid to say what he saw. And he didn't know anything about me. He didn't know who I was, right? But he prayed for me and he said I was up in my room and and I told him before we got on this call, I said, I will never forget that. And I've taken that with me and I appreciated that because I don't know what was spoken to your heart. But what you said to me was exactly what I needed to hear that day. And so, the premise behind this show that we've kind of talked about is, sharing our stories, but the fact that we all struggle with things. And a lot of people see us, right? So we talk about not judging a book by its cover. A lot of people see us in a certain capacity and they just formulate their own ideas, right? They don't think about the fact that we are also human and we also struggle with our own stuff, right? And most of us are dealing with these things even more than some normal people, right? Especially when we get into bodybuilding. A lot of people just think that we're bodybuilders and we just got it all together, but most of us got into bodybuilding for a reason, right?
Exactly.
And it becomes like a spiritual mindset, so to speak, right? And it becomes that thing that keeps us from making more excuses because we have something, to kind of
special.
Yeah, we got that thing. But people on the outside, and I think in the bodybuilding community we get it, right? But I know a lot of people on the outside, especially because I'll have these conversations, I'm sure you do too. And people they're oblivious to that and they just think that we're like these alter human things. And I'm like, no, I struggle with the same stuff, right? Like I might even struggle with more. I don't know. I'm kind of messed up.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Hold on.
Not at all. Not at all. But that's why I love having this platform because I knew deep down that I was not the only one that struggled with stuff, right? And so the more I would have conversations, I was just like, people need to hear this stuff. And so I want to say thank you for your time today, for coming on here and taking time out of your busy schedule. Because I want to acknowledge you for that too, because that's the thing. We all got other stuff going on besides this podcast, right? So so I just want to acknowledge you for that. Thank you for taking the time out. And I'm just gonna kind of allow you to take it from there and just talk about anything you want to talk about as far as like your upbringing, the barriers that you've continue to break, because I always say that's why it's breaking barriers now. We're still breaking barriers. I don't care who we are.
It's never the journey never stops.
Yeah, so just go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit better than I did and just tell us whatever you want to tell us.
Well, first and foremost, Miss Jody, I want to thank you actually for having me on and giving me the opportunity to explain the things that I've been through, or rather give my testimony, as I like to say it now. Yeah. I want to thank the Father most, like I have to, because everything that happens through Him, and nothing happens through us or our capabilities. So our meeting by chance was not by chance; it was designed, and what I saw is what He pointed out, and it wasn't anything to where me being special was able to see. I've really come to thank the Father for everything and try not to take any of the glory, because I'm just a vessel. And as I've become one with the Father, He is able to use me in the same way He uses others. And He gives us special gifts to where we're able to bring others into the light. So,
hallelujah on that one.
All right. So my name is Chris Spruell. Out of New York. She said up north, I might sound a little different. Yeah, not accustomed to hearing somebody speaking the ways that I do. Uh, we got a
I have
little
plenty of
slang
friends
about
that are
us.
New Yorkers, so you know.
Okay, so it's like you could tell by the way we talk, we're not from around here.
No.
Uh, that's
You
how
come to
it
Florida
usually
and you
is.
stand out.
Oh, I've noticed, man. I'm coming to the point where I'm actually trying to fit in. We'll get into my science debate.
I was gonna
Wow.
say, don't do that because it'll never work out very well. I've learned that. You're never gonna
So,
fit in.
oh, and sometimes we are in a world that we're taken out of and we're not meant to fit in. We're meant to shine different and align with those
Exactly.
that we're meant to align with to bring others into that same light. Um, so when it comes down to, I could actually get into it now because it makes sense. That big city personality is actually built and constructed upon the interaction between so many different individuals between one day. So
Mm,
it breeds a type of individual who's a little bit more fast paced than someone that doesn't interact with so many individuals. So we city folk tend to ignore most of the people we see during the day,
mm,
but interact with them. So it's like good morning, not
right.
expecting a good morning in return. To where when I went to Florida, as soon as I got off the plane, it's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "What's up?" And I kept it moving, and they were like, "Oh, you're so rude." I'm like, "I said, what's up?"
Yeah.
um,
Usually I just look for that NY on the hat and I'm like, oh yeah, they operate
yeah,
differently.
just a little bit different. But I've learned that's been a construction, like it's constructed to operate like that.
Hmm.
I've done a little bit of research, and there's a scientist named John B. Calhoun.
Yeah.
Um, the Universe 25 experiment. He takes four pairs of rodents and he supplies them with ample enough to live peacefully. And what happens eventually is overpopulation destroys humanity.
Whew. Yes.
It breeds a
Yes.
certain type of individual or a certain type of character to where the the male rodents are feminized and the female rodents then become protective and they start to get masculine characteristics. The masculine males no longer want to breed with the feminine aggressive females, and the female that are aggressive don't feel the feminine male is assertive enough to carry on or protect them as would be needed.
Mm.
So they lose the sense of a man of a male rodent.
Whew.
Eventually, society dwindles out because reproduction stops. And once
Wow.
reproduction stops, it's like, okay, it's over.
Yeah.
He
Mm.
did this experiment 8 times, and the same thing happened each time. They were provided with ample amount of food, ample amount of living space, but they chose to bunch together, and eventually, just it didn't go good.
Wow, that's interesting. And we'll let the listeners formulate their own thoughts on that. I always try not to
Mhm.
interject too much when it comes to stuff like that. But I mean, I can definitely take my own, surroundings and experiences and even who I am, right? And that's very interesting. I'll leave it at that. You
I'm
guys can
like,
formulate everything else you want to formulate. I'm interested. This is going to be fun to see some of the discussions that come out of this.
I didn't make this up,
I know.
I
Yeah,
just
I'll
went
make sure I put that
do the
study on there too,
research.
because that
Yeah.
is it's good. And I tell you, I research a lot too, and I think it's important for us to research
Hmm.
because there are a lot of things, ideas out there, and just things that we probably wouldn't think about too much, but somebody had an idea to think about it,
And they
and
wrote
and
about it.
now, yeah, now, yeah. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So I look at a lot of things that were written in the past.
Hmm.
They show what happens in the future.
Hmm.
Everybody, so we're gonna break barriers right now, and everyone's gonna say, "Oh, this guy is crazy." But I think the same thing has happened multiple times within different societies.
Yeah.
Society gets to a certain point where technology is just too much, and society begins to collapse because the normal things we were intended to do, we stop doing.
Mm. And here we are in the world of AI.
Yes. 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 I look at it, let's go even past that, right? Um, let's go to physical, like we're bodybuilders, and now we can go into the anatomy,
Mm-hmm.
and we can look at the children of the day, and we can look at how can I say it without offending? I shouldn't have said without offending people because now everyone's
Yeah,
going
because
to
now
be
people are going to
offended.
be like, what?
Okay, exactly. What? I don't believe this. The defenses are going to be up
They
here.
probably look. No, nobody was listening until you said that. No, I'm just
Exactly.
playing.
Now the
I hope
defenses
they were
are up
listening
here.
before that, but
Uh,
isn't that funny how you put like a warning thing out there and you're like, dang, I shouldn't have even said that.
and then they're like, wait, there it is. So after you build it up, you drop it back
let's
down
let's
to
just go ahead and premise this with, hey, you guys, everybody out there, everything that gets said on these podcasts is said with love and compassion,
love.
and
That's
and
it.
most of us have gone through it too, so it's okay.
Okay, right. So we look at society, like the children are a little bit more obese than they
Mm,
were when I was growing up.
right.
And I'm not a what kind of guy, like what? Oh my God, they're just huge. They're no, it's I'm looking at why.
Why? Yeah.
What's going on to make that happen? And I don't judge a book by its cover. So I look at the why, and I see a lot of the things that I did as a child, they are not doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would go to the park and play basketball. They'll go to the living room and play NBA 2K
Yep.
or Call of Duty or their cell phone.
Yeah.
Um, as they're doing so, they're sitting on their butts and they're atrophying their glutes. When you begin to atrophy your glutes, you're killing your posture. You're destroying the lack of production or creativity or creation or
Right.
muscle stimulation of your lower abs. So they're atrophying as well.
Right.
Your hip flexors are beginning to get too tight because your glutes don't work. So now it's just making you get that lower little belly because it's opening up a closet for you to store fat.
Yeah. Well, and then you add in the mindless eating, right? You got
That,
snacks on hand, you got sodas coming in the house, you got
that
all the stuff, right?
that's because we're in the house.
Yeah,
It's like we're not
exactly.
outside and having to deal with just a quarter bag of chips and a quarter bag of quarter water.
Right.
Now we're in the house and it's unlimited everything.
Yeah.
So my point is not the eating because we can't point out what's being advertised for us to eat. I look at the structural things of why they're not able to do the same things.
Right.
If your glutes don't work, standing up is literally a problem because your hips will start to shift.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see Miss Watkins like, hey, my QL is hurting. I need some help. And we're not
Which is
as
how we
active.
met, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, by the way, everyone, I was at a bodybuilding show with my massage table and a
Uh-huh.
Theragun and some cups and doing
And
some
I said,
cupping and yeah.
hmm.
And I'll be at another one here pretty soon, but but that's the thing, and it's so important. I definitely want to dive into like your story, and it's interesting. I like what you said about when you were growing up, because you and I are actually in two different generations too, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, we are.
so I think it's interesting that you, as someone even younger than me, still says, "Hey, I was outside playing. I was doing this. I like that was me too. There was no sitting inside. Like I literally did everything in my power to be outside. I was riding my bike. I was,
I was mad
um,
that I had to be in when the street lights came
yes,
on. Like, what do
yes,
you
that,
mean?
yes. But I will say, I think a lot of it has to do, and I also have an almost 14-year-old. A lot of it has to do with how society has changed. I don't know how it was, where you grew up, and definitely want you to go into that. But like for me, I lived in a town where everybody kind of knew everybody.
Okay.
We didn't really have to worry. I mean, there was crime and
Mhm.
stuff happened. And I mean, I lived in a chaotic household, so there was stuff that was happening there, which is why I got outside more. But like, but I look at it now, and some of the cities, I mean, kids can't even go out and play right now. And so what happens? I'm not gonna say can't. I see your face. For everybody that's listened to the podcast, you couldn't see his face, but his face said everything just now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say can't, but I have been in some inner city areas where it's not so safe, and the adults that are around aren't looking out for the kids.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm offending people out there, but I've been in those places and I see.
I live in one now. I'm not offended.
Okay.
I see kids playing outside every day.
Yeah. And so that's why I don't want to say can't, but I think sometimes it's
preventive. We want to protect,
it's like
and it's a
we want to
discourage.
shelter. We can't shelter them though. And that's the thing. It's oof.
So I understand that from someone coming with love who cares for their child, but I don't care if I offend the people that are we say right now. But when people aren't raising their children and they're just letting them grow up, it's a difference.
Right.
It's like if I'm going outside with my child and we're practicing how to play basketball, we're passing the ball, I'm not worried about the influence of everybody that's outside.
Right.
If I'm on my phone on Instagram trying to get 1 million likes and show my backside or my front side, because my child's father is no longer around, or my child's mother is no longer around, so I'm flashing a lot of cash and a lot of bottles, and that's what my concern is. My child grows up with the influence of society.
Yeah.
So I think it's a difference between like raising a child and letting children grow up. As we'll get into my story, like Jesus said, he said, hey, hold on. He said, ye who have no sins cast the first stone. So I don't cast a stone at anyone that I speak about,
right,
because I've been a product of that environment. I have 4 children myself, and honestly, my parents raised them. Like I wasn't in a position to raise a child as a child. I had my first child at 17. And then I did a stint in prison.
Okay, hold on. Okay. We're going to stop right there. Okay, let's go back.
Okay, let's do that.
We're not going to bypass that stuff, okay?
Okay.
Because this is the part that I really want people to hear, right? Because again, we see what we see, but we don't see what got us there, right? So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about, where you were brought up, how you were brought up, and what led you to that first child and the stint that you were just about to talk about.
Okay, cool.
There we go. Let's go.
Let's get to it. All right. So I was actually the golden child. I'm the oldest of 9 children. My mother and my father, they never married. So my father married my stepmother. My mother married my stepfather.
Well, all right.
My mother and my father, before splitting, had 3 children. I'm the oldest of the 3. I have a brother and a sister from my mother and father. My father and my stepmother had 1 child. My stepmother brought a daughter into the family when she became the stepmother. That's my sister. My mother had 3 additional children when she married my stepfather. And if you do the counting, it's like, hey, that's about 8. And he said 9. When I was about 13 or 14, I found out about Ray Bond. And that's my brother, who was raised actually down south without the influence of our father.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So as a child until about 5, 6 years old, I was in Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York. I'll paint a picture of Coney Island. You've seen the Warriors.
Yeah.
Okay, I know we're about that generation where we've seen the Warriors, and I grew up in the Easter era where it was like the Bloods and the Crips, and they were always fighting at the Coney Island rides. Coney Island is like one way in and one way out. it's so small but so congested. You know everybody but don't know anybody.
Mm.
You'll wind up like the building I lived in was 23 floors. It was probably 12 to 14 apartments on each floor. And like everybody had families.
Wow.
My building had 6 buildings in the complex, and they took up about one block. Right across from me, that was Sea Rise. Right across from Sea Rise was Brazen. Brazen is a New York City Housing Authority project.
Mm.
So that's probably another 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people.
Wow.
Across the street from Brazen is the Mermaids. The Mermaids were a set of 2 buildings that probably housed 2,000 people. So it's like you'll see all of these people, but you know none of them.
Mm.
You interact with a lot of souls or spirits from a young age, and you don't realize what's going on.
Mm.
You have a lot of influences, some positive, some negative, and some is just like you. They're like NPCs. Like you see them and going and never speak to them.
Wow.
Like I remember there was a young lady I actually had a crush on her. I'd seen her every day and never said a word to her. Well, and this is normal for things like this to happen. It's like you see
Yeah.
so many people. Now, when you see so many people, it's so many problems that can
Mm.
happen.
Yeah.
If you have a girlfriend, you might run into another one. You know, me at that young age, I didn't have those problems, but these are the type of situations that occur. So my father felt he had to get me out of there before I became a victim of the streets.
Mm.
My friends that I know from Coney Island now, if you look at the Instagram bio, you know, you'll usually see something positive from somebody, you know, not them. It's rest in peace and at least 5 to 6 people.
Mm.
And it's people that they've grown up with, people that they've gone to school with. And these people have died at young ages trying to live in a world that looks for an ego more than love.
Mm.
So instead of getting loved at home, they're in the streets and they're following bad influences. And these bad influences are giving them guns and giving them drugs and telling them, okay, this is how you be a man. You sell this, you protect your people with that. And it's just like not a good place. So my dad got us out of there and he pulled us to Staten Island. So from 5 years old to about 13, 14 years old, Chris was the golden child. I picked up plenty good like trades.
Mm.
My dad is, I'd say, a jack of all trades, but he won't. He said he's just a master at everything. It's like, hey, okay, whatever.
All right, ego.
He,
You
no,
know, ego.
he's a Leo. That's where it comes from, you know. Leo
Ah,
with an ego.
I know. Yeah, I got one of those. I live with one of those. That's funny.
So as I'm growing up, he taught me some of the things that, well, I actually was forced to learn some of the things that he was fortunate enough to be gifted.
Mm.
He does home improvements, and when I say this man is excellent, I've never seen anyone do work the way he does work. I don't find too many people that like what they do anymore. I think a lot of people just do it for the money.
Mhm.
He's the type of person will take longer on the job so it's perfect and run into the budget because it's mismanaged. It's like, hold on, dad, we're not supposed to be here no more. It's like you can't even pay me next week, bro. It's like, but he
Yeah.
likes to value the things that he does and leave a spectacular finished product.
Yeah. Which is good. People appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah,
It
they
can be
do.
a financial setback, but
Yeah, you know, sometimes the workers don't like Chris. Hey, again, man, you know. I'm a junior. My dad's name is Chris also.
oh, okay. Nice.
So we as far as home improvements, we also do swimming pools. Uh I would spend my summers literally opening and closing swimming pools, running around doing cleanings and liner replacements for above ground swimming pools. So he kept me out of trouble.
Okay.
My first job, he made sure I was at work. He actually came to my interview, like sat next to me with like it was the most.
He was like,
It was
I'm not gonna
weird.
let you go on this.
Just like that. We walked into the it was a McDonald's restaurant. We walked into McDonald's. We sat down and they came out for the interview. She said, "Hello, who's interviewing?" He said, "My son is." So I had already had the job. Like a teacher of mine from my high school made sure I had a job when I asked for one. And his whole thing was, well, he's not working past this hour and he can't work on his days. I'm like, yo, bro, do you want me to get the job or not?
So he
Just try to,
created the boundaries for you. That's actually good though.
unless it was working with him.
Oh, that's what it was. He
We,
needed you around more, so they couldn't have you that much.
yeah, I guess it's like, making sure I'm still available for his services. So,
Hilarious.
I always worked,
Yeah.
I was a good kid. And till I became like 14, 15, I started smoking weed.
Okay.
In the beginning, it wasn't bad. Like nobody cared until one of my cousins' parents started getting upset and they were calling me a bad influence. So then my dad tried to like tighten the reins. We were still cool though. I'm like, listen, brother, you not paying for it. I'm paying for it, man. I'm still going to school. My grades are cool. Like I'm not doing anything. I'm not outside. And he's like, all right, whatever. It all went bad when Chris wanted to go to the Air Force.
Oh, so I'm a product of the Air Force, though.
uh, so I'm in high school. It's my junior year, and I see like what's going on outside in the area around me. We're in Staten Island now. Nice house. Not too far from the projects, but we're in a good block. We don't have to deal with the things that are going on in Brooklyn. It's about 40 houses over here opposed to 40,000 people on the block.
Oh
So
my
we're in a
goodness.
nice neighborhood. The schools are safer, but it's still that element is still around. It's everywhere. I had a few bad friends. They did what they did, but I kept away from them because that wasn't my lifestyle. I worked at McDonald's. Like I was cool coming to buy weed from the guys, but anything else, I'm like, yo, nah, I'm straight.
Yeah.
I stayed in the straight and the arrow. I had a best friend who actually was in the Air Force as well. He went after his senior year. I said, Dad, I think I want to go to the Air Force. And he said, no son of mine is going to fight no wars.
Mm.
I said, Dad, there's a war going on outside in these streets, and I am not trying to be a part of it. That Leo ego came out. He said, ain't no son of mine gonna do nothing in the streets. And, okay, cool.
Mm.
Yeah, so I was cut off,
So you
literally.
didn't even get to join the Air Force.
Nah, so I went, I took the pre-ASVABs, and I'm not a dumb kid. Pardon me. I was never a dumb kid. I was actually really smart. Like I was always in the honor classes. Like I was gifted.
Yeah.
So when we took the test, I did something stupid. It was the pre-ASVABs, and I skipped a question on the Scantron, but didn't skip it. So it's like I just missed every one of them, like literally. So the recruiter calls my dad, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been speaking to your son, and we're interested in going to the Air Force. The only problem is he needs a tutor." He's like, "What? What do you
Oops.
mean a tutor? Like my son is in Regents classes. Like what are you talking about?"
Oh my goodness.
um, he said, "My son won't be going to no Air Force. There's no need to call back." He hung up on the recruiter and called me downstairs. He said, "Didn't we have a chat about the Air Force?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Why did you go take the ASVAB?" I said, "I'm going to be an adult." And boom, I learned real quick, you don't tell an adult what you're about to do. Um, he took my cell phone because he was paying for it at that time.
Mm.
And I was basically on my own at that point. So I started to rebel.
Yeah.
And my rebel was, okay, cool. I was about to go somewhere I wasn't supposed to. Ooh, I almost got him in trouble. Uh-oh. But
Yeah.
just to say, like, we put like this, I was 17 years old and I had great credit.
Mm.
So when he took my cell phone, I know my social security number. I have my social. I just went and got my job. I I went and got my own cell phone and I paid my own bill. And I thought I was a man. You
Yeah.
know, I thought I was able to just, get through. And I learned the hard way over the next 14 years.
Mm.
Um, After being cut off, things really got hard.
Yeah.
I literally was doing it on my own till I got over my britches, and I'm just like, yo, I'm not jacking anything he's saying. I was 17 exactly. I was in high school. I had 3 classes in the first term. So it was 3 for the first term, and then I had 3 for the second term.
Mhm.
So it's like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I was a good kid.
Yeah.
I have extra classes already. Like, I barely have to be in school senior
Yeah.
year. Um, my first period class I hadn't been making
Mm.
because my sisters joined my high school that year. Both my sisters, my stepsister and my sister, are the same age. So I was accustomed to waking up at a certain time, getting in the shower, and going to school. Now they're in the shower, and it's 2 of them, and it's
Oh.
like, all right, cool. I would just take my time, and I wind up, like at that time I was working at McDonald's, and like I was into the weed, so I knew if I bought weed a little bit wholesale and I gave some to my friends at school, I might not have to be really paying for the weed.
Mm.
So I said, okay,
It's an
that's
entrepreneur mindset. I mean, it's a really smart way of thinking. It can just get you in a lot of trouble if you're not careful.
honestly,
In
not
that specific
anymore.
situation. Well, not anymore. Yeah. But it's funny because, if I always say, somebody's gonna say something about this. Drug dealers are the best entrepreneurs.
They are. They are. They run a
if
business better than
they
anyone.
if they could just take that and do it with something that's legal,
Like
they
like
wouldn't have to worry
fitness and
about
personal
anything.
training. Like fitness and personal training.
Yeah,
Hello,
we'll get to
how
that.
are
But
you?
okay, so you got your entrepreneurial.
Yep, yep. So that's where the backgrounds came from, in a couple economic classes.
Yeah.
So getting through high school, like so this is right before my 17th birthday.
Mm.
My birthday is September 18th. So it's like the first 2 weeks of school, and I ain't been to class but once or twice. The first period class, he calls my dad, and now we're gonna have an ego fight, Leo. I come in the house, he's like, "Yo, your teacher called, said you ain't been there," and my response was like, "This the previous summer, I took driver's ed,
Mm.
and he told me if I paid for driver's ed, he would buy me a car so I can get to school, and I could drive me and my sisters to school." So when he said, "Yo, you ain't been getting the first period class," I said, "Well, if I had my car, that wouldn't be a problem."
Okay, your birthday is September. You're a Virgo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I said, if I had my car, that wouldn't be
Y'all
a
be
problem.
pushing buttons.
Yeah, we do. So when I said that, I definitely pushed the button. I hit the ego button, and he said, "Well, all right, your ass is on punishment." What? Man, I'm about to be 17 years old. I got my own job.
Sounds like
She ain't
somebody else got the
punishment.
ego gene.
Yep. Had. You know what I mean? We had it. We had it. It had to get checked. So as it was going, it was very funny because that day I actually went to my job to get, and I got my check, and I bought a half of ounce, and I bought two bottles because we were going to have a party up the block. I had become a little bit more friendly with the guys because I could make some more, business if I hang
Right.
out with them. Especially because they, like, they're
Yep.
my friends that want to share some too. So why don't I stay around you guys? Because y'all like to share a lot more.
Oh Lord.
So we were gonna throw a party that night, and or they were, and I was just gonna be there. So I, bought something to share. My boy dropped me off at the house, and that's when I went in and got put on punishment. I left everything in the car with him because I didn't want to go in the house smelling like that.
Right.
So he's like punishment, and I'm like, I just bought. I'm not staying in the house. Like I gotta go get that. uh, I snuck out the house that night. It was the first time, and ooh, we lived in like a real house. We had a roof. I was on the second floor. My room was on the second floor.
Mm.
Outside of my room, if you go out the window, there was like a roof that was actually over the bathroom. So if you slide down the roof, you can actually jump 12, 13 feet and you'll hit the deck. And then from the deck, you good to go. So I told my brother, I said, yo, just make sure the window open or the door is unlocked when I come back. He's like, yo, you're bugging. I'm like, nah, we good. So I go outside and, the night goes by. I'm drunk. It's 3 o'clock. And I'm like, yo, I can't go home. He's going to kill me. I'm like, he about to kill me and beat me up, man.
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
so I started my first night outside, and it was a friend who I thought was a friend of mine. And as we're in the car, like we let the seats back, and the car is not running, so it's getting cold, and I'm shaking. I'm like, "Yo, bro, you do this every night?" He like, "Yeah, man." I'm like, "Ooh." I said, "I'm going home."
Living out of
uh,
your car is no fun. I've
oh,
done it.
oh
It's
yeah,
no fun.
I agree. Especially when it doesn't run and it's not your car. It's just an open car where you have a blanket.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Made
So
you real grateful for that house, right?
yeah. So I get to staggering back to the house, and I'm wondering, I'm like, how am I gonna get in? I'm like, I hope my brother left it unlocked for me. Yeah, I get to that front door, it's locked. I'm like, oh man, I'm not knocking on this door.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking on this door. So I proceed to go up the same way I left. I go up the roof, and I don't know how. I know how now,
Right.
I know how now, but then I didn't know how I made it up there. Literally, I climbed up the side of that roof like I was Spider-Man or something. Um, I get to my window
Oh
and
my
I go
goodness.
to open it, and when I go to open it, it's locked. I'm like, oh wow. I'm drunk. I'm not, I go to my brother's window. His room is right next to mine. I opened his window, and he had a bunk bed. I jumped right through it, wake him up. I'm like, yo, why you ain't open the door? He's like, yo, you in trouble. I'm like, yeah, shut up. I go and I'm so drunk, I just fall on my bed. I wake up maybe an hour and a half later to my father screaming, how the F did you get in my house? I said, I never left. What are you talking about? And then I look up and see all of my stuff packed.
Wow.
He had woken up because my aunt was dropping my sister off. And as she was dropping my sister off, my stuff was thrown in her car, and I was sent to my mom's house in Coney Island with my stepfather.
Wow.
I guess I remind my stepfather of my father.
Mm.
He didn't really like me around too much. So after I went from there, that didn't really last. I went to my aunt's, which was actually downstairs on the fifth floor. I graduated high school from there.
Okay.
I made it my business to get on the bus, and actually two buses, and then to a ride. So I could get to school. You know, that being the weed man, it helped out. I had somebody there to pick me up from the 53 every day. The 64 would take me from Coney Island to Bay Ridge. I'd jump on the 53 to go across the Verrazano Bridge. And I have a faithful person sitting there. Hey, you ready? Light it up. Okay, cool. And that was my
Wow.
ride to school.
Okay.
I did that for the rest of high school, and I graduated. My ego didn't allow me to go to graduation because I was not going to allow my parents to come and celebrate something they had nothing to do with.
Mm.
I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to graduation. That time I had been in the belly of the beast in Coney Island, back to a surrounding of 40,000 people. And I was already a bad spirit myself, and it was just attracted to more bad spirits.
Mm.
The downward spiral began then.
Yeah.
um, I wound up meeting my daughter's mother, and she got pregnant. I didn't even know this. Like we did whatever we did. She went back to her house. I had moved back to Staten Island. My dad actually used me at this point. I started a pool business after I graduated high school. And in Coney Island, they have a community that's right next to it. It's separated. It's called Seagate.
Mm.
Seagate is a Hasidic Jewish community, and it's closed off to everyone else. I went in there, I handed out some pool flyers, and I got work. Um, I asked him for help on a situation, and he seen an opportunity to take advantage. He came to the job, made me pay his employee for that day's work from the money that I made that day. Let me know if I paid his insurance on his van, I could move back into the house and use his tools. And he sold me a dream, you know.
Yeah.
So I fell for it. I moved back home, and I'm still, I don't even know the girl anymore. That probably lasted for about 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm.
I wasn't man enough at that point to be a helper and not try to be the man.
Right.
So he was doing a home improvements project at that time, and you know, you'll get paid like in portions. So he'll get a percentage to start, he'll get a percentage when it's halfway, and then he'll get the remainder when it's done. And you know, like I described his work, he's gonna be there a while.
Mm.
Swimming pools is not like that. It's like, hey, I did 4 cleanings today and I did a liner install. I came home with $800.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes he would give me the job, so he would get a percentage, and like, or he would basically tell me how much I'm getting out of it. And when I would do a job, I'd kick him a little PC, you know. He gave me a job one day. It was supposed to be $475. Don't tell me how I walked away with $1375. When I told him, he was a little upset. I gave him $250, and I asked my stepmother. I said, "Hey, Bridge, what's for dinner?" She said, "Yeah, I'm going to I'm cooking such and such." I said, "Nah, don't worry about it." I threw $100 on the table and said, "We having Chinese tonight." I said, "Order me extra chicken wings," and I walked
Oh
out.
wow.
Like I felt good.
Yeah.
I felt like I was helping the family, but I didn't know I just outshined the master of the house, and he didn't like that. Um, so they had given me some curfew when I moved back. But mind you, I've graduated high school already. I'm about to be 18. What do you mean curfew? Like I work for myself. I'm doing everything pop like curfew. Why are you trying to control me?
Yeah.
I didn't understand if you're outside at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning smoking weed all day, how you gonna wake up for work at 5 or 6 o'clock? I didn't understand the message because we had so much animosity,
Right.
and I was so used to being manipulated. It was just like, hold on, why?
Right.
why, not what you said, is why you
It's
said it.
not it's which makes sense why you ask why. No.
It's like, hold up, man. What you mean? Where am I at? What you want? So that day, I broke curfew, and when I came in, he once again he demasculated me. Like, I think I said it the word emasculated.
Mhm.
I came in the house, and he said, "Who the f do you think you are?" I said, "Huh?" And he's like open palm smacked, and then went in my pocket and took everything that I had, all of the cash. He took the business cell phone he had given me because I had messed up my credit already. Within a year, I didn't pay my cell phone bill. He had gave me this. He took it back. Um, and said, "You think you Big Willie out in the streets? Go be Big Willie out in the streets." I went to the streets. I became a product of my environment, and I did things I thought was good to survive, and didn't understand I was only killing my spirit more and more and more the more I tried to adapt to the things that looked normal and cool. So I wanted a persona. There was a rapper that came out around that time. His name was Young Jeezy. He was like a hood celebrity,
Yeah. I
a
remember that.
snowman. Like, I wanted to be him or
Mhm.
that type of image in the hood. So I started holding guns. I started doing things I just really shouldn't have been doing. I wound up getting caught in a situation, and I went to Rikers for the first time. And it just happened to be my father took advantage of me at that point. So when I was in a position to need help and he felt like it was his fault, I manipulated his ass. It was my turn. I'm in here because of you.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be very comfortable because of you. In Rikers Island, like you have a max spending limit every week. When you go to commissary, it's $115.
Mhm.
I spent that every week. Your phone calls, it's like it's 21 minutes every it resets every certain amount of hours. So if you're really good, you could get 3 clicks in one day. But those phone calls are like $6. And you don't realize it because you're not putting money on the account. I
So
had
he was
three.
putting money on the account.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I made sure of that. Hey, hello, that money, right? Sorry, Dad. I ain't trying to say it like that. I wish you could have saved it now and let me starve and and not be able to use the phone. But at that was the type of
Yeah.
mentality that I had. I wasn't able to take accountability for my actions.
Yeah.
Um, that was the first thing. I came out after then, and I was supposed to change, and I just couldn't. At that point, I had 2 kids. It's
Mhm.
like, ooh, now I gotta survive. It's like, yo, no one's gonna hire me with these felonies, and it's like, oof, what am I gonna do? So now I'm back, and I'm really outside now. It's like this is what I'm gonna do, so I'm going to be good at it.
Mhm.
And I mean outside, like I'm really in the streets.
Yeah.
Like anytime you see me, I'm the type of person you would have probably crossed the streets, not wanted to say hello to. It was that unapproachable, like I have a weapon on me at all times, and the people that I'm speaking to are my customers, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I'm protecting my customers from anybody else. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
no. And that was just the type of individual that I become so I can provide. And it made me worse and worse. And it was only a cycle. So nothing ever positive worked out for me like that. I was always able like to just get by.
Mhm.
Nothing, nothing promising. It was like, I didn't who I was, I really didn't like. I seen it in the mirror. It's like, yo, man, you know where you go. And it was kind of an acceptance because didn't know anybody else.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what the world is, and these successful people doing it. Maybe what they talking about ain't right. I'll be looking at the people that be talking, and it ain't that right anyway. uh,
True.
I had a dream I got murdered.
Mm.
The same night I had the dream, one of my cousins had the dream, and my mother had the dream. I knew who it was, so I started looking for him.
Wow.
The day that it was supposed to happen, I seen it happening before it did. I seen him spin the street. I seen exactly what he was wearing. And then like 5 minutes later, he actually came wearing that same thing. At that time, my weapon of choice was an M1 assault rifle.
All
So I
right.
had a 30-30, and it was sawed off with a pistol grip handle.
Like the movie stuff.
Yeah, we like they seen that. Oh man, it's like, yo, where that comes from?
But you know what's
So,
interesting, real quick, I was just gonna say this. The fact that you wrote "Don't judge a book by its cover," like when I first met you, you couldn't have told me this, right? Like I wouldn't have known any of this. Like, but that's why it's so important. And I really hope that we're gonna have to start kind of coming towards, the
mm-hmm.
other side of this. But I hope that there are a lot of people that share this and a lot of kids that listen, because there's a lot of kids that are going to need to hear the rest of it. So, but this is interesting, and
Yeah,
it's probably a whole lot more common than most of our society realizes,
I
and
agree.
that's the sad part.
And
But
sometimes
there's
they're
hope,
putting these. There is.
and the hope is called Chris, and because the person I know, the person I met, isn't that.
No,
So
who
what
I who
happened? That like
uh,
was this the turning point for you where you had this?
oh no, not at all.
No, okay, you're
We
stubborn.
we close to it though. We're close to it. No, we're we're
No,
right
we
on the
needed like
verge.
5 more. Not I'm
So
just
so
kidding. I'm just
so the
kidding.
thing was, I seen that happening, and then when he came, I actually withdrew.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. He kept it going.
Okay.
He
I
seen
got
what
you.
was up, and nothing happened. 2 days later, my house got raided. Now I was staying with a cousin of mine, and I happened to be. It was a lot of us in that. Like my cousin, it was her and her two sisters, her baby father, her daughter, and about three other kids.
Mm.
And I used to come by, and it was all in the one bedroom. Everybody
That's
was in a
more
one
common than
bedroom.
we know too. Yeah.
And I used to come by when everybody else leaves. So when like all of them would go to work and school, I would go in the house and sleep. And when
Mm.
everybody would be like, they start coming in, I go outside and I'll be outside all night. So I wound up staying at the spot, and I'm leaving in the morning to go home because they usually leaving, and I get a phone call. And it's like, yo, where you at? Like, yo, I'm on my way to the crib. And my cousin's like, okay. So I'm walking, and don't judge me now, because this is where we get it.
No
Everybody
judgment
had
here.
a bad diet at one point. At one point, my diet was a Corona, a Newport, and a Dutch from the
Look.
store.
That's what I'm like, I don't even know how I'm alive still.
So I go to get breakfast, and that's when I got the phone call, and I'm walking back, and my phone rings again, and it's my boy from where I just came from, and he's from Alabama. So he told her about like this. Like he said, "Yo, man, where you at, man? I got a goddamn man." I said, "Yo," I said, "I'm on my way to the crib, Smurf. What's up?" He said, "Don't go over there, goddamn man. Motherfucker, police at your goddamn house, man." I said, "Oh, now this is where it gets crazy." I knew what was in the house, so I knew like they got it and I was about to go to jail because I had to go turn myself in. But the day before, when I was leaving and I looked at the closet, something told me to grab it and I didn't.
Mm.
So, you know, yeah, nah, I was like, yo, it's TNT, leave it there. You know, I don't want to get caught in the street with it today. The next day, get raided, boom. My cousin and her baby father, they were the only ones in the house at that point. They got locked up. So I had to turn myself in. So I turned myself in. That's how I got a nonviolent offense. I got a weapons charge and I wasn't nowhere near the weapon. My charge is attempted criminal possession of a weapon. How do you attempt to criminally possess a weapon, bro? Like, huh?
Making up stuff.
So that was my charge. I got sentenced to 1.5 to 3. On that 1.5 to 3, we're gonna get into this story now. I'm an avid reader, so I'm reading a novel at the point, and it's by Eric Jerome Dickey. It's called Sleeping with Strangers. It's a whole series, but I'm reading Sleeping with Strangers, and I see a quote: "For the good that I wish I do not do, but for the bad that I do not wish I do." And I'm like, ooh, I like that. I like that. So in the prison system, you don't really have like notebooks that you can like keep to bring up notes. And I knew I was going upstate. The only thing you can bring upstate with you is a Bible. So the Bible that I had it was like my writing pad. Like I put everybody's mailing information, phone numbers and things like that. Uh, I write that quote in it. I get upstate and I'm in a paramilitary boot camp, you know, because I had a nonviolent offense. They gave me the shock program. Shock is where I actually learned fitness. I seen people working out and eating, doing an intermittent fast without realizing it. I'm
Right.
like, hold on. And afterwards, it's like, I know what that was.
Yeah.
And I seen everyone losing weight. I seen how they got active. And I seen how that whole, you know, I'm injured. Yeah, they didn't really care about that. They made you work through it. So it was a
Right.
mental thing. So I was like, boom. It was a little bit too mental for me because I had an ego at that point, and I'm really good at the things that I do sometimes. You know, I was a squad leader, and the platoon leader just wasn't platoon leader in the right way. Me and him, like we were cool. We had something called confrontation. Inside of confrontation is where someone tells you, gives you some constructive criticism that you're supposed to use to better yourself. But you know, sometimes our defenses are just so high when somebody's attacking us, we fight back and then have to face the consequences. Well, Courtney said, Chris, I feel like you're faking your way to make it through the program and you're going to end up here again. Now, Chris is supposed to repeat what Courtney just said, and Chris was not with
Yeah.
Um, the network officer and the drill instructor, they realized the tension. So they gave us a smoke break. So we go out and you know, you're supposed to fall out a certain way. You got 4 squads and the platoon leader calls out the leader, like 1 and 2 is split and 1 and 2 will go together, 3 and 4 to go together. And he'll pick his side. Well, I stayed there until he picked the side. And I slid right in with him. And I invited him to the head. You know, like, bro, if you felt some type of way, we could have said something. So, you know, after this confrontation, I'd be in the head, I'd be expecting. And I guess this upstate person wasn't really used to us city people because that's how we were handling it. And wind up getting kicked out because of that. He didn't take the invitation, and instead of me leaving it alone, I badgered him. I wound up writing his girlfriend and telling her that he was a sucker. Hey, go check out my MySpace. And I'm a real dude. Like it was a whole lot of bullcrap. I wound up going to the box. And inside the box, I had my Bible. And I had 2 other books for a week. I was knocking out a book in a day. It's 23-hour lockdown. It's like, what do you want me to do?
What else you do? Yeah.
You know what book I'm not going to read in a day? So I started reading the Bible. Okay. And at this point, I was a non-believer. So I was like, I don't know how they believe these stories, I got all of this time. I'm gonna prove it's false. So I get into it, and I'm in Genesis, and I see, well, Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, and then got banished to Canaan, where he met his wife. It's like, where his wife come from? This was my looking at it. So everything I
Right.
looked upon it was negative. I wasn't looking to be
Right.
informed to understand. Um, I come home and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do the same thing I've been doing. Like, yeah, like in the beginning, transitional services, they teach you people, places, and things you have to change.
Yeah.
I changed none of that. I went back to the same environment. I was a little bit more respected now because my name and reputation went a little bit up when I was incarcerated.
Mhm.
Now I come home, I got bigger, it's a different aura, and I really am street life
Yeah.
until I get locked up again. I'm going to, like pick up some, stuff, and the police like see me. I'm on the corner smoking a cigarette. This is why I don't smoke cigarettes to this day. I'm on the corner smoking a cigarette.
Besides, they're not so
And
great for you.
yeah, they're not. They're horrible. Don't do those guys. So I'm smoking a cigarette on the corner, and I have like a lot of stuff in my pocket that I shouldn't. And the police, they kind of see me, and I guess I look suspicious. They hop out, and I know they're coming to search me. So I don't run. It's like my brother, like it's my older brother in the street. He's in the like passenger seat. I know if I kick it to him, he gonna put it somewhere. We're good. So I go to the van, I open the door, and I throw it to him. He just didn't put it anywhere. He kicked it under the seat of the driver. So long story short, in that situation, the grace of God pulled me through. The driver was actually, he took the charge, and he only had to do a couple months in the program opposed to me having to go back to, like, they didn't even give me a chance, but they probably would have gave me at least 5.
Because
um
that was 3 for you, right? That was,
yeah, that'd have been number 3. So I'd have got at least 5, and it was all different fields too, so it was even
yeah,
worse. So yeah, I would have probably copped out to 5 on the next one.
yeah.
um So I said, you know what? I got to change. Like, I got to leave this alone. And still, it was, I got to do it and not, I need help to do it.
Mhm.
Um, I started trying to do positive things. So I did the transformation of taking my hustle into the gym. So I became good at personal training. And I actually learned that craft in the jail and when I was in the box.
Mhm.
When I came out of the box, I went to prison. And that's when I started lifting weights.
Right.
And everybody there, they were like, "Hey, you should be a personal trainer." I said, "Nah, I'm going home." But I eventually started personal training at Bally's. I became the best personal trainer there because I can sell. I honestly looked at it. If I can stand outside and push something illegal, I can get into a gym and say, "Hey, you want some fitness today? How are you? Are you
Right.
okay?" It was natural for me to
Right.
take that and transfer it. Because I never had a problem with transactions asking for money. When I would let somebody know it's $800 per month to train, I'm not shaking. It's not really, oh my God, I got to ask this person. I'm providing a service. You
Right.
want it. This is how much it costs. Do we got a deal? Nah, okay, cool. I was also good at bargaining and, the barter system because of what I
Yeah.
was accustomed to.
Right.
So I took all of that. I became very good at that. I eventually got promoted and I was like a fitness manager. As a fitness manager, I met someone who changed my life, who
Mhm.
began to change my life. And I didn't understand she began to change my life until I broke her heart. When somebody with the light, as I like to call it, I dimmed it. And it hurt me more than anything, seeing her not smile the same.
Mm.
So with her not smiling the same after we broke up, it was probably the most painful words I ever heard. She helped me move. Like, I moved from her house to Staten Island, back to Staten Island or home, into a new apartment. She helped me move in. Like, this is 4 months after we broke up. She didn't kick me out her house. She's like, yeah, when I met you, you had an apartment. I'm gonna make sure you're good when we, part ways.
Wow.
She's a very good woman. Like, oh my goodness. I won't even say her name. She probably, we're not even gonna go there.
Yeah, we don't have to
go. But she's
we'll
a
keep her
very
anonymous for now.
yeah, she's a very special person, and I
Yeah.
broke her. After I broke her, I had to take a look in the mirror and see the individual that was staring back for who he was, a selfish, maniacal, manipulating individual who was only worried about himself in every relationship that he's had. So when I looked at that, and I tried to be a better person, I thought about it. I said, if I passed away, nobody's gonna want to come to my funeral. They're gonna come, but nobody's gonna want to be there to say goodbye. So I started trying to become a better person to where I was more valuable to people, and not just because of money. It's like, hey, if I call Chris to help me out, can I count on him? Yeah. I was over volunteering myself for duties that I wasn't called for. And I didn't understand that. I was just trying.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I felt I was incapable of love because I never knew love until I destroyed love. So my dog, Jaxie, excuse me, she when I was with my ex, we got a dog. It was supposed to be cool. When I left, she came with me. Like maybe a few months after I had been in Staten Island, like I couldn't stand looking at her no more. I'm like, oh, she just reminds me of, Anonymous so much. And I was trying to like find somewhere where she could go. I'm like, somebody's got to take her. So I had spoke to somebody, had arranged it and everything. He was gonna come pick her up. I went to train a young lady. I get back to my house 11 o'clock at night. I had a friend of mine staying with me at that point because I'm trying to be this person everybody could rely on. And he lets Jaxie out to like run to me, and Jaxie runs straight into the middle of the street. I look at Jax running, and I take a quick look into the street, and I see a pickup truck coming. I tried to like kick at Jax so she wouldn't like go, but it was too late. I sacrificed myself at that point, like not intentionally, like, oh my God, kill me, not the dog, but
yeah,
like I ran in the street waving and flaring my arms to a pickup truck whose driver was sitting on the phone and didn't see me. Trigger warning, right? At that point, who I was died, as in the flesh, and the spirit was awoken. All of my issues from the past, they no longer were with me. Those demons that followed, they stayed on the ground, and who Jesus picked up is who began to walk. And the things that began to happen to me, I didn't understand until I began reading. I was picked up from the ground. I woke up in the hospital after having like, I'm not gonna. It was an out of body experience. I say it because I was
you showed me
outside of
that
my
video,
body.
and I'll make sure I put the link. We'll make sure we get the link for that video. Because you guys, he showed me this video, and I didn't even know what I was watching at first. But once I realized it was just like, wow, this is this man that's standing right in front of me.
Yeah. So when I looked in the mirror the next time, I didn't see that individual I no longer liked.
Yeah.
There were certain things that I was doing, or certain spirits that were leading me to do things. I no longer had them. Like I was a very lustful individual. It was like I was trying to jump into anything. Now you can't get in my like what, man? You won't exchange these spirits. Sorry. I am he said blessed the hearers and doers of the word. So I try to pride myself on being a hearer and a doer. So the things that I observe or, come to learn, I do. So when it says, don't fornicate, I'm not out there trying to fornicate. I'm trying to run from it. I'm like, please, 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 like ladies, please in the gym, put something on. Like I'm still in the flesh. Please. I'm trying to father.
I got the people that can definitely relate to you.
and so
I always like, can y'all just say 50 feet away? Like
exactly.
over there.
I'm sorry.
Over there.
Like it's like I'm lowering my gaze, but God, shoot, man, you're in my gaze. So I woke up in the hospital, like out of that body experience, I seen myself like calling my job to let them know. I was a general manager of a gym at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm calling my job to let them know, yo, somebody got to like open up tomorrow. Like that was my concern of the world. Not hate call my dad, not call my daughters, like none of that. I woke up in the hospital, and my boy, like my boy Kev, he was sent to me. The father sent him to me like early in the journey. And he started, when I moved back to Staten Island, he started like feeding me Bible verses. And as he would feed me the Bible verse, I would like read into the chapter. And then a couple of weeks later, I would go through the situation and be like, yo, like, yo, like, bro, how you know? He said, yo, it was just in my spirit. So I sent it to you. And that's it. Thank God. And I'm like, all right, cool. So he eventually got me into studying the word like heavily. But when I woke up in the hospital, he was right by me. And another one of the brothers, Mateo. Mateo actually worked at my job, and he was one of the people I called. He came from Brooklyn to Staten Island, and when I woke up, I had two praying, God-fearing men by me. And like I'm like, yo, what happened? They said you got hit by a truck. I said I want to see the truck, man. I know I've been working out. I'm thinking I'm super huge. Like I want to see the truck. And when I came like I left the hospital maybe 3 or 4 hours later, I jumped in a cab and I walked back in the house, and my dog didn't know who I was. My boy was in the house. He knew who I was. He had a blunt for me right there. I'm like, yeah, I need that. But my dog, Jack's like, she stayed on the couch and she's looking like you don't belong here. And when you guys look at that video, you'll see she's running in circles like afterwards. And it's my belief, she was, bring that spirit back. Or give him a new one. So within the walk, as Kev prepared me and as I started to feel special, like a lot of people they got laugh at me, I felt like I was God's chosen person at that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to blaspheme and say like I'm a prophet like Jesus, but I know I just died sort of, and I ain't saying I got resurrected, but I'm not the same person.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the same person because I don't do the same things they did. I'm not attracted to them. I'm like, yo, what's going on? My boy said, yo, get in the word. So boom, I start reading and reading and reading. And this time my reading was different because my eyes were open. I was reading things that I was going through. And then I learned that I was born again. And then I was able to understand a lot of the scriptures that are spoken in parables. For those whose ears and eyes are closed, it's not for you.
Yeah.
But once your eyes and ears have been opened, listen, this is it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand Jesus at first. So it's like I understood, God. It was like, a creator. I'm like, I got saved, that ain't by chance. And the things that I'm good at, like, I learned from bad situations. So, it's a master mathematician. I was placed around a few Muslims first. Like I have a good brother, and he moves in the ways of Muhammad. Man. That boy, he's about 22, 23 years old, and he's a born leader. and you can see it in him. And it's not in his, you got to do this, because in the ways that he moves, I'm not going to say he is sinless, because we all fall short of glory, but he moves as he is trying to be like, and it's just like very inspiring. I was able to learn about Muslims and Islams through watching him. So when I picked up the Quran and I'm beginning to read, I'm like, oh, this sound like, my first stint of the Bible was the Old Testament. The Old Testament and the Torah is like the same thing. So I'm running through it and I'm like, hold on. I got the lineage, and I was able to understand that everybody served the same God. It's like everybody serves the God of Abraham. And if you look at it, Abraham had two sons. It was Isaac and Ishmael. Ishmael, he was the son of Hagar, who was the maidservant given to Abraham by Sarah. And it's like, hold on. The Bible say woman belonged to man and man belonged to Christ and Christ belonged to God. It's like, hold up. Before Christ, it was man belonged to God and woman belonged to man. So everybody in his household is following what that man followed. So it's like, hold on. Ishmael bore the Ishmaelites, and those are the Arabs and the Muslims. It's like Isaac bore the 12 tribes of Israel, and that's where the Jews come from. It's like, whoa, it's the same God, guys. And, I was able to bridge that. And then I met Jesus Christ and understood grace through Christ. And once I seen that, I was open. It's like, all right, you got me. There's no more doubt. Like, I am no longer a believer. It's like, I know. It's like, I know the kingdom is coming down. I know Jesus was resurrected because it speaks of it in the Bible. And then in the Quran, it confirms it. It's like, I understand the differences in the religions, why we practice different, because people don't understand the difference between living under the laws and living under the grace. They're so concerned saying, Jesus came to change it, and he came to open up the doors for some other people that weren't allowed it. And it's like, hold on. So now my days have become this individual who's more looking to fill cups with the things that he's been filled with, opposed to take from whatever he could and get over. And so the transformation actually came from a broken heart. And not me having a broken heart, me breaking a heart and seeing what it did to an individual. Because I seen a very, very bright light dim all the way down. It's like, oh my goodness. And to corrupt the soul, when the accident happened, I asked for the opportunity to serve. And throughout the walk and, through certain guidance and being put before certain people, it's like I have so much more testimony, because my life is a walking testimony nowadays, because I'm being used to bring others.
It's
amazing.
It is. It's very amazing. And I think I say that sometimes because people be like, "How was your day?" Like, interesting.
Yeah.
And that's really all I can say, because honestly, and maybe it sounds like this is what you're kind of living too, where it's like, if I'm not being followed around with a video camera 24/7, I can't even explain to you what happened. You wouldn't
the
believe
conversations I have,
conversations come out of nowhere,
people I speak to. So I'll give you, this week, right? I said, so I'm going through a little situation. So I've been subletting an apartment, and the ladies are getting a little greedy now. She sees she can make a lot more money than what she's been charging me. So she's basically telling me I got to get out. I said, okay, cool. I worry about nothing nowadays, because I know it is not for me to worry, because everything that is for me will be given to me, and everything that is not for me will be taken from me. So I live, and like some people would say, it's faith. I just live, man, knowing it's gonna be good, right? So I said I'm gonna fast, for a certain amount of hours, so I can get some clarity and direction.
Yeah.
So I think I set up like a 36-hour fast. I may be 22 hours into the fast, and it's after a workout, after cardio, and I'm walking onto the boat. No, excuse me, I'm leaving the gym, and my good Muslim brother, my boy, he actually takes care of my food.
Okay.
So he was so accustomed to it, he ordered the food, and then we just go to pick it up. And I'm like, oh man, now I got the temptation. So I'm like, yo, I do need the protein. We didn't get no carbs. So I take the food. And I said, you know what, I'll just save it for tomorrow. As I'm getting on the boat, somebody says, hey, you got my food, don't you? And the first thing they look at me, I'm from New York. Man, give me $20. I give it to you. And I'm just saying it sarcastically. And then I looked back and caught who I was at this point. I said, you hungry? She said, yeah. I passed it a tray and kept on. I was able to get through my fast. I'm in ketosis right now because of that. God is amazing. So you gave me a temptation. I seen a way out, and then he gave me a way out.
Right. And you took the way out. That's the key.
I sure did.
Because I think he always gives us ways out. There's if we really pay attention.
Mm-hmm. It's a choice.
He always gives us ways out, but we have to choose to take it.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. And I'll be honest, I mean, my human stuff, I struggle with stuff too, right? So it's like,
the flesh.
Yeah. So good on you for taking
oh
the way
yeah, I
out.
tried. So he
So
said, "Bless the hearers and doers of the word." So like basically, my story is starting over. I didn't like who I was, so I began to try to be a better person, and that didn't work. I didn't begin to be a better person until I was born again. Born again for me was literally the Holy Ghost, which I've come to know it as becoming one with me.
Yeah.
That's my version of born again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everyone shares it, but I'm going to share the gospel that I go through and the gospel that I see Peter talk about and Paul talk about, Corinthians, and the whole New Testament. I try to share that the person I was, I no longer am, and it is not through my doing at all. The Father uses individuals like me to show other people if he can do it for me, he can do it for them as well.
Yeah. That right there. That's
that.
Yeah. And that's what I say. Like it's important, I think, and it's I don't know, at least for me, I can only speak for myself. Sometimes it's difficult for me to believe that he wants to use me in these ways that I never saw coming. and it's something that I struggle with. Just that kind of self-worth and self-belief and just but it's possible that he can take the most broken, prideful, egotistical, whatever name you want to put in front of it, person, and use them for the greater good.
Look at Paul, Saul and Paul.
That's what happens. Yeah, that's what happens.
So I started my story off saying, the sleeping with strangers. That quote was actually of Romans. And in Romans, it was Paul speaking of the flesh and the spirit and the difference between the two.
Yeah.
So when I was able to look back at that, I seen that the Father had a calling on me from way back, and I just wasn't making the choices needed to be used the way I needed to.
Yeah.
To what you were saying, the self-worth, I struggled with that in the beginning until I realized it's not about you. That's it. It's not about you. It's him using you to do his plan. And once it's like that, it's like, use me. Like I get so excited when I'm used to get someone else to know the Father.
That's awesome.
My brother picked up the Bible. He said, Chris, I'm in Matthews. I said, yeah, man, thank God.
Nice.
My mother, a devout Christian, for many years, like before I was born, sends me a message. I see you and Brett in this. I started reading Matthews too. It's like, Ma, you didn't read the Bible yet?
Yeah.
So it's exciting to let the Father use you to do these things.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited right now. The Father's using me as we speak. I'm hoping a lot of people are able to identify the things that they're going through or might be feeling and actually start looking for direction. Don't listen to me. You know, there's a book. If you read it, show you some things.
Yeah.
They might make sense to you. If they don't, it's not for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yet.
That's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's all about timing. And, I can definitely look at my own journey, and there's a lot of things that I didn't understand at one point, and my eyes have been opened a lot more, since
Mm-hmm.
then. And sounds like that's, similar for you. And I hear those stories all the time, and it seems like a lot of us are going through those things. And I definitely want to first off acknowledge you for being vulnerable and, telling as much of your story as you did. And like I said before, I hope and pray that this hits home with a lot of people out there, especially kids, teenagers, people that are where you were, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just gives hope to, I always say, even if it's just one person, right? but I hope it's a lot more. But
A lot more.
and
But if it's one, I hope it's that one that is meant for it to inspire a whole
exactly,
lot more.
exactly, yeah. But you've definitely been through some things, and I think that's where the testimony becomes even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were out here talking about my life is perfect and this is what I've done, and then I never had to struggle, and people can't relate to that.
Yeah.
They can't relate to that. It's not relatable. And what I've learned is the more open and just genuine I am with people, and
Genuine.
hey, this is who I am, and I got my flaws, and the more I'm open and honest about it, the more people I'm able to have a positive impact on.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think
So
the Florida.
definitely keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, I wanted to kind of get into like some of the bodybuilding stuff. We've kind of gone over our
Yeah.
time, and I want to make sure we don't have any listeners that check out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys, look, I want you guys to make sure you connect with Chris. He is definitely, I make sure on social media, I make sure that I keep positive influences in my life. So if I go on there, I want to make sure I'm seeing some positivity, right? Like
Uh-huh.
I don't need any negative stuff. I've had enough of that in my life, right?
We need some
So
positive
for anybody
uplifting.
out there, yes, make sure you're following Chris, because that's what he does. He spreads the positivity. He's here to inspire you. Like I said, I've only met this man in person one time, but it left a lasting impact. So I know that if you have the capability to do that with someone like me, you have the capability to do that with anybody you come in contact with.
I have the capability of doing nothing, and the Father has the capability of doing the
But he
same to
uses
me
you.
as anyone.
But he uses you, and
Yes, ma'am.
the thing that we have to realize is people see us that
Mm-hmm.
don't see him.
Oh, I want you to see him when you see me. I
Right.
don't want you to see me. I want you to see the works that he's done through me, and that this person will not even pick up a gun anymore, let alone attempt to try to sell a drug
Yeah.
or steal anything, because of what the Father has done in my life and the things he's changed within me, the
Yeah.
moral compass and values he's instilled in me that I did not have.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to see. Don't run from the rash delivery, because Jesus and Paul did not speak that friendly either. When they were dodging left hooks and right
Right.
elbows, they were telling the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to spread anything truthful that's positive and leading an impact into the world that we're heading,
Yeah.
not the world that we're living in.
That's good. Well, you're definitely doing that. So keep it up. Keep it up.
Appreciate it.
Keep doing what you're doing. Definitely keep doing the fitness thing. It is interesting how those entrepreneurial skills just came to you. And I had another guest that he kind of went through the same thing. So it's pretty interesting to hear that. But God bless you, and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
keep doing what you're doing. And I know our paths will cross again.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah.
I'm back on the stage quite a few times this year.
Yeah, I know. I've been following you. So you guys make sure you follow Chris. Make sure you connect with him. Hopefully you and I can link up and do some collaborations later on, and just kind of see where things go. And like I say, I don't ever have the plan. I just say, hey,
Hey, what's up?
Give me the people and let me go. Give me the people that want to follow, and we'll all go up together. So me, I want to make sure, because I don't think I did it at the beginning of the show, but I definitely want to make sure that I shout out our sponsors: Convene Communities, real life, real people, real stories. We are real people coming together. We got different things that we've been gifted to do, and the more we collaborate, the more we can do, the more impact we can have on the entire world. So I'm truly grateful for that not only just the platform, but the family that has been created around that platform. And we always said that was led by God, because there's no way humans could have created something that massive. And then I also want to give a shout out to First Approved Financial. I have a really good friend, Denise Armstrong, who is literally allowing what she's been gifted to do to have an impact on the rest of the world as well, through financial literacy and credit repair and business funding and things like that. And so she's been my accountability partner as I've been kind of on my journey, and so I'm grateful for that too. So shout out to both of them. And Chris, definitely shout out to you. I can't wait to see where you go from here, and I know it's only going to be up. So and I always say, let's go up together, because it's time to level up in this world. So thank you again for your time. You guys, this has been another episode of Breaking Barriers Now. I'm your host, Jody Watkins. Today we had Chris Spruell on, and I'll make sure you got his Instagram so you can make sure you follow him, and just keep good people in your life, because the more we do that, the better we will be, and the more he can lead the rest of us. So, and if he can take some of us and create us into what we are today, then he can take anybody and do the same. So we will leave it at that. So Chris, thanks again. And everybody out there, God bless you. Thanks for listening. Make sure you share. Go follow, subscribe to the Jody Watkins Inspires YouTube channel. Make sure you check out the Breaking Barriers Now podcast on all podcasting platforms. Follow, share, get it out there. We hit 80 countries last year, and we're shooting for 100 this year. So, and maybe even more. So, but again, that's not my plan. We'll see where it goes. But thanks again, and everybody have a great day.